just for our audience, my name is Stacey Alvarez de la Campa. I am the program manager and the community manager here at Island Innovation. And today we're going to be having an interview with Mr. William Kostka. He is based in Micronesia, the beautiful island of Pohnpei. Did I say that correctly, Mr.
Yes,
Kostka?
yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Kostka is the executive director of the Micronesia Conservation Trust. And this is a trust which focuses on supporting biodiversity conservation and sustainability projects and capacity building. So thanks so much for being here, sir. How are you? How is it there where you are in Micronesia?
Thank you. I'm good. I'm just quite busy because I'm in a transition from the Micronesia Conservation Trust to the Secretariat of the Pacific Communities uh,
Okay.
North Pacific Office. So, so it's
Yeah, it's a bit time.
quite. But both organizations are accredited to the Green Climate Fund. So they do similar work, except that the Secretary of the Pacific Community has a larger mandate, and it's an
Okay.
intergovernmental organization. But I'm actually working for both organizations now in my transition to.
My goodness. So you're multitasking in the biggest sense of the word.
Yeah, it's until January where
Okay.
I'll be fully on SPC, the acronym for the Secretariat of the Pacific Community.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. So then please, I'll get right into it and I'll begin asking some questions of your role and some of the challenges you face there. Can you provide us with an overview of some of the key climate challenges that Micronesia and other large ocean island states are facing?
Yeah, so in the Pacific right now, the a lot of the challenges are in terms of the climate change challenges that we're facing. We're losing some of our islands, some of our shorelines. There's inundation of salt water into a lot of the water sources, and even on the main islands, even on the high volcanic islands, that some of the one of the staples across Micronesia is taro, and the taro patches are usually on the lower areas on the shoreline, near the shorelines. And so the inundation of water is not just affecting the atoll islands, it's also affecting the high islands because some of the agriculture areas are uh, near the shorelines, especially in the wetlands, where we're growing taro, which is a main staple for
Mhm.
many people here in Micronesia. We've also seen a lot of coral bleaching in across the Pacific, especially in our region, where with the warm temperatures, corals are bleaching, and we've seen the in area a lot of flooding,
Mhm.
um, and then droughts as well when there's no rain. So we're getting the extremes. Uh, and in terms of the um, uh, like the seasons are also being affected. So where we used to be able to know when the breadfruit season is going to be, and now it's there's some disruptions in that. So it's not just affecting uh, you know food for people and economy, but also the cultures. Like when we usually perform, the first harvest of different crops that we grow, those are changing, and so we're those um, we need to figure out what's
Yeah.
what's going on, and so some of the main challenges we face in terms of implementing climate adaptation uh,
Mhm.
programs is the lack of science to support some of our work.
Uh,
When we're applying for funding from the GCF, for example,
mhm.
you have to build a strong climate rationale for your programs and projects. and without the science, because these small islands, developing states lack a lot of the research that needs to go on. We don't have the students, we don't have the universities, we don't have the technical agencies. We're having to, you know, sort of extrapolate data or information from other areas with similar sort of conditions, but we don't know exactly whether we're doing the right things or the science that we're using from other places is really what we need for areas like in Micronesia. So there needs to be a lot of that work and those studies done for us to be able to um, understand what's really going on. And we serve a very large region with different, um, you know, landscapes. And so we're things that are working here in the Federated States of Micronesia may not work for the Republic of the Marshall Islands, where the country is entirely made up of all atolls, or in Palau, where um, their landscapes and environments are different. So
Mm-hmm.
we're facing challenge in that as well, and just the logistics of getting around and the cost. We have one airline that serves the region mainly, and so of course they charge whatever they want to charge, and we can't push those ticket figures down.
Yeah.
Um, the other problem that we face is when we do get the grants in,
Mm-hmm.
the absorption capacity at the local level is pretty low, and so we don't have the expertise on the ground. Um, so those are the types of things that we face. We need to develop our capacity to be able to receive the funds and implement um, programs and projects that really make a difference on the ground. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Yeah, it does sound like some of the challenges are indeed quite unique. I mean, there are some of them that within the Caribbean region, yes, we face challenges like the incredibly expensive inter-island transport. And then we also in Barbados, we do have some issues with saltwater intrusion in our aquifers. But
yes.
the challenges that you have outlined simply within a single region, I think it's really important for our audience to recognize those nuances. And that's exactly why there can't be that kind of one size fits all approach. As you say, there has to be data specific to your region. So I can see that would be a high priority. And that does lead me into my second question regarding the policy changes or commitments that you'd hope to see emerge from COP28. What kind of policy changes and commitments do you think would be useful to support Micronesia and other island communities like yours?
Well, the first thing is to make it easier for us to be able to access the services and the finance, so the technical assistance and the financial assistance that we need. It takes 2 to 3 years to get a project approved
Oh.
in the Green Climate Fund, and if we're serious that we are in a climate emergency, it
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't take that long for um, organizations to be able to local organizations to be able to access that kind of support, both technical and financial support. I think that's really one of our main problems. And of course, there's the larger issue of larger countries just reducing their, um, you know, um, emissions so that we can all survive. But in terms of the practicality of things for us, it's really around the finance and the technical support that we need, making the access easier
Mm.
uh, for us. And we've made some suggestions to the large funding organizations where if it's a mini grant of $10 million,
Mm-hmm.
don't run us through the loop the same way that
Yeah.
somebody who's requesting $100 million.
Mhm.
There has to be some difference in really reacting to some of the changes that are happening and we're seeing with our eyes in the islands. I mean, we've got. I was just up in the eastern part of this island, and
Yeah.
there's an island that's called the Kostka, and it's now two islands. So what are we going to call them? Because it was
Wow.
just one island. We called it by the local name of one
Yeah.
name. So now it's two islands. So people are saying, do we have to rename those islands, or what do we do?
Oh my goodness. I think I must say I really do respect the frankness of the discourse when you said that one of the issues to finances is simply the intricacies of the red tape
Yeah.
to get through what's necessary. And I think that is something that people need to hear, that's a very real challenge. And it does make perfect sense that that kind of level of delay does not suit the kind of emergency that we're dealing with in our climate. And I think that's something that people need to understand, that even if you do jump through all the hoops and tick all the boxes, there still is that delay. And that's something I think there obviously need to be some different financing mechanisms in place. Because that does lead me into, do you know, can you provide insights into any other financial mechanisms? I mean, I know you mentioned micro grants being one of them. Are there any others that you think would be particularly suitable to your region?
Well, we've been our organization really focused early on with private foundations because
Mhm.
those are more flexible.
Yeah.
Um, but the private foundations, they come and go. They might invest 10, 20 years in a region and then they move on to something
Mhm.
else. So we still need those public uh, funds to become more flexible for us. The other area that we've really struggled with, and I think that's the same thing throughout the Pacific and with many states, is really getting the private sector involved uh, in this fight against the impacts of climate change. And we just have struggled and have not been able to get any private partnerships that are meaningful. Um, and that's an area that I know that a lot of people struggle with. But if we
Mhm.
keep ignoring it, we're we're not going to solve the climate change problem because the private sector needs to be involved, and we need to find innovative ways to involve them where they still make a profit, but they do make meaningful contributions to society.
Yeah.
And and we just haven't been able to crack this. We need some innovative minds to come and help us, figure out how a small, um, you know, island developing state and just the rest of the Pacific and your areas, the Caribbean, how
Yeah.
we can how do we make it so that it's attractive, so that our uh, those smart people in the private sector can
Mhm.
start to think about making money in this area, because that's what they want to do, is make money. But we need to make sure that we're working with them so that we're both winning and our communities are benefiting. And that's just something that we've struggled with. We have no answers. The
Mhm.
Federated States of Micronesia launched what's called this Blue Prosperity Micronesia program, and it's with the Wait Institute.
Okay.
Uh, so we're trying a few things, some blue economy work around improving the fisheries
Mhm.
um, around our ports so that we get more benefits here locally, but we also have a strong conservation strategy but those are very in their initial stages, and we're hopeful that from that, because it's focused around fisheries and some tourism, sustainable tourism development. We're really hoping that that will work for us, but these are all very at the very initial stages, and we haven't seen, we won't be seeing anything until maybe the next 2 years, where things really start to move, if we can get them to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see from what you're saying the importance of that public-private partnership, because that is something where we see that there has to be an equal level of commitment from both sides. And as you say, the importance, I think, of inter-regional collaboration, for example, collaboration from the Caribbean region with, the regions in Micronesia, the regions in the Pacific. I think that might be something that once we break down those barriers of region, there has to be a way we can collaborate and build on each other's expertise. Because I think that's something you mentioned, the concept of capacity building. And I think it sounds as if that's something that would be really crucial to ensuring that things can be implemented that are practical and helpful for the region.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I'm attracted to this new position that I'm getting on is because SPC has a larger mandate, so they don't only do work in the environment area. They do work in health and education, and you want all the sectors to be thinking about these large issues that face us, especially climate change. And I see that while there are some some movements in the education and health sector to really focus on climate impacts in those sectors, it's not enough. We need to do more so that this becomes mainstreamed into all the sectors that need to be involved: education, health, and infrastructure development, and all of this. So we are. That's what's attracted me to this new position, is to see if I can do more to really mainstream these climate change and other strategies into those sectors.
Yeah, it sounds as if that is the way to go, to have more of an intersectoral approach, because obviously any issue that we face with climate change, I think it's a very valid point you made, that so many sectors are impacted simultaneously. So it does make sense to roll out any approach that has co-benefits for all sectors, or as many sectors as possible, because invariably if one benefits, then the others are going to be able to benefit from that. So you build resilience across multiple levels. So I think that's great. Can you tell us a bit more about your new position then? And you mentioned what attracted you, and you start in January. What kind of plans do you have in terms of advancing climate resilience in your new position?
Yeah, so SPC is already doing a lot in the area. As I mentioned, they're an accredited entity to the Green Climate Fund. My position is we have three regions in the Pacific. There's the Micronesia region, there's the Polynesia region, and there's the Melanesia region. So we do have a director general at the SPC, and the team that sits down in Numea, and they're basically our bosses. But we do have the three regional director positions, and I'm the regional director for the Micronesia region, and that includes 5 countries and 2 U.S. territories. And so yeah, and like I said, SPC works in a range of areas: the health, education, environment, sustainable development, so renewable energy, and all of those things. So we have some exciting projects that are going on right now. And the Micronesia Conservation Trust and SPC were partners, have been partners, and we work together on a few projects. We have aligned our projects from the Green Climate Fund. So we're building small grant facilities to support communities and local governments with funding. And we've also focused a lot on capacity building. We do have a food security project that we're also working together on. And then energy projects, renewable energy projects. The Federated States of Micronesia has a very ambitious goal of having 70% of our energy being produced with renewable sources. So it's a large task that SPCs helping NMCT are also helping to get to that goal. We're right now around 25%. So the push is to keep going until we get to 70%.
That's great. That's fantastic. And I think it sounds like right now, in the face of this climate emergency, it's important to have big goals like that and think big, because you have that vision in mind and you keep striving towards it. And I think that's something that I really gained from what you just described. So thank you for that. So, I mean, finally looking ahead, what are some of the long-term goals and aspirations you think that you're going to have in terms of climate action and sustainability, thinking beyond COP28? Because we always have to think of what's going to happen afterwards, right? We tend to get caught up in the actual event. What do you think is some of the most important things we should keep in mind for after COP28?
Well, the work really gets done on the ground with the local communities, and that's what the focus should be on, is really getting support to the local communities, and that comes in the form of technical support, grants to the local communities, local governments, to be able to really build their resilience to some of the impacts of climate change that they can do themselves. And then there's going to be those larger infrastructure projects that need to be done. And of course, we as the main intergovernmental organization to help the countries in Micronesia develop sustainably, we will be providing that support to them. And again, one thing that I've talked about is the private sector partnership, and we need to get that done. And I think for the next few years, as I work in this position, is to really work with our private sector and other regions and look at what's working in those areas to really, we can't stop businesses. I mean, businesses are always going to be there, but we need to find ways to work with them so that the communities benefit as well.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Well, thank you so much for that. I think those are real words of wisdom. The idea that what is happening at COP it has to make a difference at a local level. And then the idea of empowering the private sector to see how can we forge those alliances between local communities, the private sector, and of course the public sector, so that there's a three-pronged approach to building resilience. Because I think that, as you say, it's the only way to go.
Yeah, and one of the things that the blue-green economy, they've become real buzzwords, but we need to also make sure that there's integrity in these, because if you help, one of the things we're doing with the Blue Prosperity Micronesia program is to ensure that whatever ventures that come out of this actually are not just for making more profits for the companies, but that actually help the community. So Um, for example, helping to improve the businesses around the fisheries here. It's great, and we need to do that. But if they're still paying minimum wage to
Mm,
their workers, then you haven't really solved the problem of, and that's not the true blue or green economy that we're aspiring for, right? It has to lift everybody up, and that's those are the sorts of things that we're going to be involved with to make sure that benefits are going to everybody. I mean, businesses have to make money,
mhm.
but we also have to have better salaries and compensation for those who are involved in these ventures that we help to start, or we you know the work to the policy work around those are thinking about the benefits to um, the people, looking at also gender equity and all of that, environment and all of that. So it has to be a holistic approach to all of
Yeah.
these.
Well, thank you for that. That is true. The idea of it being a holistic approach and also one that is based in integrity and based in the inclusiveness of everyone benefiting. So we really appreciate those sentiments. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, Mr. Koskas. We really would like to keep in touch with you so you can tell us more about your new position and any projects you have going on. Please keep in touch. We would love to hear more about what you're doing in the future. So we consider this like a part one of an interview. So you can let us know what you're doing. And I'm sorry you won't be at COP. It would have been great to meet you in person. But
Thank you.